What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to jump into the New York Giants defense through just 2 short weeks on the NFL season. As I wanted to kind of dive into it, I thought it was a major question mark going into the year. Don't get me wrong, I still think it's a major question mark. By no means do I think we're a finished product, but we're an eighth of the way through the season, and I kind of wanted to analyze statistically, just what the New York Giants have done so far on the defensive side of the football. Of course, we're doom and gloom. We're 0-2, and we're not off to the start that we were all hoping for. I think most Giant fans were hoping to get out to a 1-1 start, and we were in these games. We could have found ways to win them, but here's what I'll say. Patrick Graham was a major question mark coming into the year. I'm still going to say he is a question mark, but so far, before I even looked into these statistics, I was actually impressed with the way the defense has played. I've talked about that. I'm not saying that we're great yet, but I thought going into the year, I thought this defense would struggle more than it has. Now, you got to put it into context like I always try to do. The New York Giants, if we're being fair, have not gone up against world beaters on the offensive side of the football. You haven't gone up against the Kansas City Chiefs. You haven't, we played the Bears and we played the Steelers. The Steelers have a pretty good offense. The Bears don't have a great offense, so we haven't gone up against the greatest offensive opponents. But some of the things I was able to pull up, I was really encouraged by and kind of surprised by in terms of the blitz frequency by the New York Giants and how it's still been, we've still gotten the job done, even though we haven't blitzed nearly as much as I thought that we would going into the year. Now, some of that may have to do with the fact that the New York Giants have been able to stop the run, and maybe some of it has to do with the fact that they're trying to generate pressure through coverage, which is kind of what we thought they would be trying to do all along, and expect them to try to continue that, but they've blitzed much less than I anticipated. To put it into perspective, last year, James Bettcher and the New York Giants blitzed 29% of the time overall. So far, this New York Giants defense is only blitzing 12% of the time, which ranks the 11th fewest times in the NFL. Now, it is down across the board. Last year, the Baltimore Ravens blitzed 55% of the time over the course of the season. Right now, I think the league leader is about 38 or 39%. So it's down across the board, but the Giants only at 11% are near the bottom 10 in the league for defense that we thought would be blitzing frequently, yet they've been able to get pressure on the quarterback. Now, first I wanted to start with the bad things. Last year, the New York Giants struggled mightily in terms of getting teams off the field on third down, and it's gotten worse through the first 2 contests, and that is something that definitely needs to improve. It's why the New York Giants ranked 28th in time of possession, because this defense has played relatively well outside of that, but that is a big thing. This year, the New York Giants rank 31st in the league. They are giving up a first down on third down 55% of the time. That cannot happen, and that's basically what they did yesterday when the Bears were 9 for 16, and it's why we're getting killed in the time of possession. We've been able to create a few turnovers. We've created 3, which is on pace to create 24 as opposed to just 16 last year, but we're not getting off the field on third down. However, we are getting pressure on the quarterback. I think the coverage has been pretty good, specifically James Bradbury, and this defense against 2 decent offenses has looked better than we should have anticipated, at least in my opinion, and I think they'll continue to do that against the San Francisco 49ers. You'll get your first real test against the Rams to see just how far this defense has progressed under Patrick Graham, but so far, so good, and I kind of wanted to jump into some of the numbers and compare it to last year. Last year, the New York Giants ranked 30th in the league in points against in the league. They surrendered, on average, 28.5 points a contest against. Well, so far, just through 2 games, again, a limited sample size, the New York Giants have only surrendered 21.5 points per game, which is a touchdown less than last year. And in terms of where it ranks in the league, they're 11th in the league, jumping all the way up from 30th. They were actually 30th. I think I might have said that last. One thing that has really stood out to me when you look at the statistics, and it's not just defense, it's the team overall, but on defense specifically, the New York Giants this year have not surrendered a single defensive penalty. Not one. And to break that down in comparison to last year, the New York Giants surrendered 29. They surrendered 11 pass interference penalties, 3 unnecessary roughness penalties, 1 roughing the passer, 1 illegal contact, and 14 defensive holding penalties, for a total of 29, or almost 2 penalties a game. Well, so far, through 2 games, the Giants have not committed 1 defensive penalty. They've committed 7, all of which have been on the offensive side of the football. So that, to me, is very encouraging. And of course, that goes back to Joe Judge with the tennis balls, coaching, having a disciplined football team. Well, the New York Giants, at least so far this year, have not beaten themselves on the defensive end. And when you couple that with the fact that they're giving up as few yards as they are, and you don't have hidden yardage with penalty yardage, it speaks volumes, in my opinion, to just how effective this defense has been. Again, I'm not saying we're the Steelers. I'm just saying this is a defense that we all had major question marks going in and could have easily been one of the worst in the league and still could be. But through 2 weeks, they are far from it. Last year, they surrendered 378 yards per game on average, which ranked 25th in the NFL. This year, and when you factor in that there's no hidden penalty yardage on top of this, the New York Giants have only surrendered 326.5 yards per contest, which ranks 5th best in the entire league. They've surrendered the 5th least amount of yards in the NFL on defense in a per game average. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get wins, but the defense has done relatively well overall. They've only had 45 yards in penalties as a team. And when you look at teams that have played at least 2 contests this year, that is the fewest amount of penalty yards of any team in football so far through 2 weeks in the season. And that doesn't really matter who you go up against. That's based on discipline. They've committed the second fewest penalties. The Patriots have committed 5. They've committed 7, one of which was intentional, but the Patriots have more penalty yards due to the fact that I think it was a pass interference penalty. So the Giants have been very disciplined in that aspect. In terms of where we rank in sacks, last year the New York Giants had 36 sacks overall, which ranked 22nd in the league. And we blitzed 29% of the time. Keep that in mind. This team is blitzing 12% of the time, and we have 6 sacks. So if you times that by 3, we're averaging 3 sacks a game. We're on pace through the first 2 games. We got a long way to go to have 48 sacks. We'd have 12 more sacks. We're tied for 5th most in the NFL through 2 weeks. So we're getting more pressure on the quarterback and we're blitzing less, which to me signifies that the New York Giants are getting more pressure up the middle and their coverage has been better. That's the only thing that makes sense through 2 weeks. And again, this is relative to the opponents that you play, but it's still encouraging stuff nonetheless. The quarterback knockdown percentage, we knock the quarterback down 5% of the times on average per the quarterback dropback, which ranks 10th best in the league. In terms of the pressure percentage, we pressure the quarterback 17.9%, which ranked near the top. I think it was 5th or 6th in the entire league. So the New York Giants aren't having to send extra men more so than most teams. Like I said, the 11th fewest blitzing, the lowest blitzing percentage, yet we're getting to the quarterback as much as most teams in the league. So that to me is very encouraging, and it shows me that the New York Giants coverage has been very good, and Patrick Graham so far to date has done a good job. Of course, the New York Giants have benefited from a few drops here and there, but most defenses do. We're not the Pittsburgh Steelers, don't get me wrong, but this was a defense that we all went into this year really thinking we were going to struggle mightily. And so far, at least in my opinion, we've exceeded expectations. Hopefully they could keep it up. Dexter Lawrence, to me, has really played well. I know people like to pick on the defense, but there's been individuals who have played well. Leonard Williams has played well. Lorenzo Carter's played pretty well. I'm not telling you he's Lawrence Taylor. I think the corners outside of our second corner, which is a major problem with Yadam, but Bradbury's played well. Martinez has played pretty well. Fackrell played pretty well yesterday. So far through 2 weeks, albeit against the Steelers and the Bears, I think you should be encouraged with the growth of this New York Giants defense, and hopefully Patrick Graham can continue to do this, and expect the blitz percentage to pick up as the New York Giants get more familiar with this defense, and maybe that creates more sack opportunities for this team. But right now it seems like they're focusing on max coverage, trying to get coverage sacks. And so far, you've only surrendered, I think it's 43 points through 2 contests, which is 21.5. And if I would have told you were able to keep up with that, which would be the 11th fewest in the league over the remainder of the season, you'd sign up for that in a second. Of course, we still play some major offenses like the Cowboys and the Cardinals, which may change that. But we also play teams like Washington. So you take it week by week. We'll see where it goes. But so far, in terms of the defense, and I'll speak more on the offense, trust me, later this week. But in terms of the defense, I think you should be incredibly encouraged, especially factoring in that the offense really hasn't helped you out that much. Our offense has not extended drives. We've had a couple of really good drives, but we haven't really picked up a lot of third downs. Just as much as we struggled on defense, we've struggled on offense. We haven't beaten ourselves with penalties, and we've been pretty efficient. So far, I'm optimistic with the way that the defense has grown. We're not a finished product. We still need at least 2 impact players before next year if we want to be one of the best defenses in the league, but we're definitely growing and improving. And right now, as a Giants fan going into the year with this young defense in a new scheme, I couldn't have asked for much more through 2 weeks. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.